Welcome live to the Palimpsest project. Woohoo! Thanks for joining us. If you are anything like me, which is in no way a wordsmith, you will be interested to know the meaning of palimpsest and why this title was chosen for our project. So it means something reused or altered, but still bearing visible traces of its earlier form, or something having usually diverse layers or aspects apparent beneath the surface. Just so you know, if you have any questions or comments around the time that we're on this call, please type them into the comments and we'll do our best to answer you on air during our program today. This broadcast is brought to you from all around the world, otherwise known as the International Art Alliance. We are 7 artists who met in an artist group during the first year of the pandemic, and we decided to extend our relationships by staying in touch, which resulted in our creating something together. We chose the theme of transformation for this unique project, where each of us begin a painting on a panel and physically send it to the next artist, and each artist adds their marks and so on until each of us physically alter the artwork. So now I'm going to introduce our artists. We unfortunately have one artist, Ross Berman, who is one of our only men and favorite men of the group, who is not feeling well today. And he sadly has come down with COVID, but I think he's going to live, so we're happy about that. And he's from Los Angeles, USA, originally from Boston, Mass. And he makes art that explores the meaning of life. And he often uses the Hebrew word kai, life, as his constraint. Denise Griezmann Pilgar, the artist abroad, as she's known as, now lives in Montreal, Canada, originally from Amsterdam, Netherlands. I'm so bad at words, I said Neverland before.
Oh, that's fine too. I'd love to be from Neverland.
Neverland.
I mean, we have so much pot in Amsterdam. You might as well call it Neverland.
Just fly away. That's good.
She's called many places home in her life, and her artwork that she creates is mixed media images, which evokes the memory and excitement of these places through bringing a real sense of belonging. Rose L. Williams, originally from Montreal, Canada, now Vancouver, British Columbia, has roots in Trinidad, which she does layered artworks using materials that she sources from British Columbia, British Columbia's vast nature, to amplify the human journey to healing and beauty. Stephanie Mclean, really from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, is now living in Toronto. Stephanie's artwork is rich, evocative paintings of iconic jazz performers and musicians, and I'm proud to say I am an owner of one of her pieces. Stephanie transfers the performer's magic to the canvas. Her artwork relays the rhythm, energy, and excitement of these musical artists through textures and rhythms in paint with unexpected pops of color. Lara, originally from Italy, now in the UK, Lara explores the dynamics of female power in her very modern portraits. Her portraits have roots in the past, but these portraits are really thoroughly contemporary and dynamic and very striking. And then we have the woman of the hour, which is Cheryl Willcox, who is across the world enjoying coming to the end of summer. I'm envious that she's anywhere near summer right now. She's in the central coast of Australia, and she's painting beautiful coast and bush landscapes of her surroundings. And she manages to open a real tangible connection for people to this extraordinary environment. So we are going to take turns in asking Cheryl some questions. And my question is, your why is that your art inspires others to explore the beauty of the natural world. So why do you want people to explore the beauty of the natural world?
I suppose it has its sources in a lot of the Aboriginal culture. It's the context of the how the environment owns us. And it's the feeling that when you're outside and you're standing looking at the beach, or you're just standing quietly. And I often feel this a really interesting feeling that other people have stood there, they have felt like this. I often feel this timelessness. And so rather than using the environment for its resources and what we can get out of it as we develop it, as we mine it, as we change it, I like that idea of just liking it just because it is, and just because it makes us feel, I just feel that it owns me, that I don't own it. I feel that I'm actually passing through. So I like that feeling, and I like the feeling when I'm out painting. That's what I like. I don't know.
That's beautiful. So Stephanie, do you have a question for Cheryl?
Sure. So it's actually a bit of it kind of takes off from where you just left off. So you like being outside, and I know that you paint basically the world around you. You love where you live, which is north of Oka, New South Wales, Australia, and you paint what's around you. So I have to say, I've noticed a lot of lily ponds lately in your Instagram feed. And so, may I ask, what fascinates you about the lily pond, and how many lily pond paintings have you done? Is it all the same one that I'm seeing, or have you done multiple?
That's a really interesting question, because there's this lady that I follow who's an abstract artist, and her thing is that every painting's different. No two paintings are the same. I've got about seven or eight in the Lily Pond series so far. And when we had lockdown, we were only allowed to go out for an hour, but apparently you were allowed to go out and fish. And I wasn't game enough to go down to the beach and to start painting and doing the normal things that I was doing, because I thought, I'm going to get roused on, someone's going to have a go at me. Anyway, and then I remembered that there was a lily pond. It's not that far away from here. It's only about a mile, and it's at the back of the oval, and it's the oval where the children used to play soccer. And I used to always sort of like this lily pond, and it's kind of like all covered in stuff, and it's got a main road going beside it. But I knew I could go there, I could actually hide, and I knew that nobody would sort of rouse on me. I wouldn't get into trouble. And I just started to go down there. And I was just going down there, and I was just drawing, mucking around. Yeah, took down some gouache, did some stuff. And then it just sort of happened, because it was just quiet. It was just away from everybody. Yeah.
Nice.
That's
Isn't that crazy that you felt like you were breaking a rule by painting outside?
I know. But you never knew which way people were going to jump. You just didn't know what people would do in COVID. It was just really strange. I seen a woman once, she accidentally touched the cashier's hand when she was pushing the groceries through, and she just went ballistic. So I never even knew what was going to happen, how people were going to react. But anyway.
Very cool.
So
I have
to the lily ponds.
I have a part 2 of that question. Sorry, I think hopefully we have time. No, you know what? I'll let someone else ask, and then I'll come around.
Go for it. I like the compositional one. I like that.
Okay, well, okay.
When I started painting, I don't know how to say it. It's all like bits and pieces, and I put it all together. So I start with a composition. So these two behind me, I've actually have more of an S composition, but a lot of times I like to work in the concept of a galaxy or a spiral. Mm-hmm. Because I feel, for me, I feel as if a painting works best if it's got one focal point, rather than having lots of things, which is totally opposite to my personality. I always think it works best with one focal point. So I always sort of feel that you have to get somebody there, and I often use that nautilus or the spiral, or I'll do the galaxy. So if you've got a really strong focal point, I feel that your composition can almost be anything, because once you've got light on or you've got a main thing, that will attract your attention. So you don't necessarily need anything else. I mean, I'm talking about a lot of the, the books that you have to have the rule of thirds or 3 spots or all those traditional types of concepts. I often think if you have a big pile of rubbish with a bird on the top, shine a light on the bird, that's fine. It'll work. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. No, I think that's true.
Yeah.
Good point.
I don't know. So that's, yeah, so I actually start off with my composition first. I just try to work it through. And I suppose this one here was a lot duller, I suppose. And that was really because we've had really rainy weather. It's been really overcast. We've had major sort of like floods, and it's just been huge for months. And I think it's because I haven't seen the sun for so long. I've forgotten what bright colors look like.
Oh, they're beautiful. Your paintings are beautiful.
Thank you.
So Rose, do you have a question?
I have a million questions for Cheryl, but I'll try and narrow it down. We are so simpatico in our motivation to share what we're sharing, and not only are we simpatico in like celebrating nature in our work, but you live north of Oka?
Yep.
Right? Yeah. I'm from Oka, Quebec. Boom. It's like we have so much in common. I kept thinking, is she actually saying Oka, like where I come from? Look up the Oka crisis. You'll see it's got big history in Oka. But you touched on 2 things in your answer to Stephanie that really tweaked my curiosity. One is that you're doing what I do, in that in your paintings, one would think you're surrounded just by lush nature, but you literally describe that this is behind the playground beside a busy road.
Yes.
And that stood out to me, like you're loving where you live, but where you live is not perfect, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So there's that aspect of your work that I find fascinating. And also just how you, like you say, you love where you live, and how you're celebrating this like little sweet spot. So I just thought I'd kind of combine that with my question about, like, maybe we all define inspiration differently. And so, like, what is your inspiration in that sense?
Gosh, that's a hard one. I love the art. I don't know, it's really weird. I just like the process of making art. It's really strange. I like to inspire other people, but I don't know. I don't seem to have a disconnect with it. I just love that idea of, the craft making and the art. And I don't know, I just love, I love looking at everybody else's work. I love finding about artists. I love art shops. I love beautifully designed furniture, clothes, cars. I just love that sort of how people can make things really interesting, and how I love the way that people think. I don't know. So I suppose I just want to get on that bandwagon.
So are you you're sort of conveying your own fascination?
Yeah. I've always sort of had it. I never really had that realization where some people feel as if, or they've had a traumatic experience and they used art to get through it. I have never ever had that. I've always just done stuff, and I'm like you. I've always sewn. So even from a kid, I used to, do sort of really. My mother used to just buy lengths of sort of fabric for me when I was like 8, 9, 10, 12. And I would sort of have a go at making clothes and working out stuff. So I've always been a little bit like that. I haven't really had that feeling that I've had to be inspired. I have the other problem, there's too much going on. I don't know.
Thank you, Cheryl. That was a great answer. Thank you.
So Lara, do you have a question for Cheryl?
Yes, I would like to know, Cheryl, when and how did you discover your why? Because your why is very, I don't know how to find, it's very direct and it's a message for everybody, because love where you live is very inspiring for everyone. Also, when Rose asked you about where you found the ponds, it's something that you can find something that you can love also everywhere.
Yeah.
So I would like to know when and how did you discover your why?
I also liked the love where you live, even in the context of being in your own mind and being in your own place and in your own space, in your own street, in your own community, in your own state, and how we sort of come up. I don't know. I don't know. I felt really, I remember when we could actually afford a place by the beach. I remember that was just a mind, like we had bought a house by the beach. That was incredible for me. Never ever in my wildest dreams had I ever thought that we could have bought a house by the beach, if that makes sense. So that was just huge for me, to be able to walk out my door, to be able to just walk down to the beach and to be able to see all this, see how it just changed daily, and to see the sky, to see the horizon, to see the sunrise, to see out. So that was a huge thing for me. And so I just felt incredibly sort of like grateful that I lived in such an amazing place. So, and I suppose we spent a lot of time in China as expats, and I just felt overwhelmed by the air pollution, not being able to see. And I remember we were up in the tallest building in Beijing, the capital building, and we couldn't see the footpath below. And so I really like that idea about being able to see the horizon and being able to see clouds, not being able to taste the pollution. So I don't know, it's more of a contentment, loving where you live. For me, it's rather than people are always outside or finding, or, I mean, what's wrong with what you've got? I mean, it's two things, isn't it? I suppose, like, you know, it's like the grandmother says, be thankful for what you've got. Then on the other side, you think, but can I just have a little bit more? I don't know. I think it's. Do you remember that? Be thankful for what you got. So I was trying, and I try to sort of say that to my students. I have a thing. They always say to me, "You always say paint what you see." I said, "Yeah, I know. I always say that, but." If you go into the florist and if you'd like to buy a bunch of flowers for your friend, do you say, can I have that really daggy old looking bunch over there that are half dead? You know, you don't. You always want the best. And so I try to instill that in my students in terms of buying really nice equipment and doing the best job, rather than saying, because I always sort of set them homework and they'll say stuff like, oh, I didn't da-da-da-da-da-da, because then I just did. And I'm kind of going, whoa. No, go to that shop and buy those flowers. Now, which ones do you choose? You choose the best ones. I don't know.
You are inspirational. Yeah, you inspire.
Yeah.
You are really inspired.
I think that's because I was a teacher, and I think that's been a big change for me, trying to actually getting to do my own work. I'm always seem to be more comfortable playing that support role and helping other people. And so this has been a bit of a journey trying to actually come into my own work. Yeah, for me. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Lara. So Denise, what is your question?
Yeah, I'd like to go a little bit deeper into that, because I hear you talk about how you're a teacher and how you had a little bit of a journey to start creating your own work. I'd love to hear your journey, like how you became a visual artist as opposed to a teacher.
I suppose I had always wanted to, and I never ever felt that I could. There you go. And I suppose that when you often go off to art school, and when I went off to art school, it was always just all about talking. It was just all about blah, 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 blah. I don't know. It was just about nothing. I don't know. It was just, I don't know. And they tell you to do these really strange things, like you had to be different. I didn't know how to be different. I didn't know what they meant by that. It was just really weird. I had to be different and something else. And I sort of went, oh, no, I don't think I can't do that. I can just be the same. So anyway, so I went into teaching, which I didn't really mind, because I don't know, it was really cliquey when I was in art school. It was overwhelming. Maybe it's gotten a little bit better. So that was pretty tough. And I used to do lots and lots of painting on the weekend. I'd go out in the bush and I'd paint. And so I would paint gouache on big sheets of watercolor paper. And that's how I first started. And then when we had kids, we had family, and my husband's has a corporate job. So we did lots of traveling and, hotels and entertainment and all that sort of stuff. And then my painting in that didn't happen for a few years. And then I decided to get back into it with life drawing. And so I just started to life draw. And then I thought, wow, I like this. So, yeah, so I decided to power on. But I have another interesting story about my studio. I don't know whether you want to hear it, but
yes, please.
So our house is so it's fairly large. So this is the bottom floor. Anyway, and the nice thing about it was that my husband's father passed away, and we were trying to get rid of our son. Trying to convince our son that because him and his friends were always down here, and they used to have this great time. Like all the kids would have this great time here by the beach and whatever. Anyway, so when Harry sort of ended up sort of moving out, we decided, my husband just sort of said, he said, oh, Dad's left us some money, let's make you a studio. And every time when I come down here, because Tim's father, he was an electrical engineer, he was a very clever man, and he was in the unions. He became a beekeeper, but he was a really interesting thinker. And as a beekeeper, he became head of the Australian Honey Board. And he was very progressive, and he had, because of his engineering background, he could make things, he could think things out. So he built a house. He actually felled the wood. He made the whole house with his own two hands. Really, really clever man, made the kitchen. I mean, it's a bit dodgy, but it was still beautiful wood and everything. And so I think when I'm down here with all my friends, I have to think, Terry would love to be down here. He would have loved to have seen his legacy or what we had built. He would love to see, all these people down here painting, talking, enjoying, because when we cleaned out his place, he had a massive workroom. Nearly killed us. All the stuff that he'd collected. So I'm just carrying on a family tradition, see.
That's awesome.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Stephanie, did you want to ask your second question?
Yeah, I'm curious to know what is in your mind for your next subject that you're going to paint. Do you have them lined up in your mind? Like, okay, no, I gotta do a collection of this and a series of that.
Yeah, I still really love the lagoon. I like the idea of doing maybe foreground and background, and not having this middle ground that I've got happening now. And I like the way that you look through trees, or when you're down at the lagoon, you look through the spindles of the trees and you can sort of see the water, but I don't really want to have that middle ground. So I'm sort of thinking of some sort of like bright, sort of like coloured water, and then with these spindles of the trees coming up with the layers. So I've been thinking about that for a while, just sort of pulling it around in my head, and I go down and I sort of trot along the lagoon and I sort of think about the lines, or just the horizon, the lake, or the lagoon lake. And I'm thinking bands and then with the lines through it. So I think I'm getting more and more abstract. So with the reflection, so I was thinking about getting rid of the middle ground. I was just thinking about, how often you look at foreground at the trees here, then you look to the distance.
Yeah,
So I thought I'd fiddle with that for a while.
that's cool. That's a great
I don't
concept.
know.
Yeah, sounds interesting. Can't wait to hear.
Remove the middle ground. I like to remove the middleman. Remove the middle ground.
Well, but you know, that sort of, well, especially in landscape, Stephanie, it's not, I mean, when you're working with portraiture, it's a different ball game. But landscapes, you know, you look here and then you look there.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
view
Oh
is-
yeah. Yeah. No, I understand. That's cool.
Yeah.
I've never paint like you. I don't paint landscapes like you do, but I get the concept. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, it's anyway. That's a thought that's floating around.
That's cool. That is right.
Sounds
Yeah,
like fun to play with.
Yeah. Just trying not to make it so literal. Try, like, you know how we look, we sort of go here, then we go there. That
Yeah.
sort of feeling, how we swap rather than making it like a view. But I love that idea. In a lot of my artwork, I build the path, that is part of my artwork. I love to build that path of how I take people through it, how I wind you up and down that path, like into the distance. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
It sounds like you spend a lot of time creating your compositions then, before you start working on your painting.
Yeah, I sketch stuff out and I make it up a little bit. I do. I sketch it out and almost these two are almost the opposites. So this one here, the S comes down, and then this one and this one, it's flipped. So it comes down, but it's actually flipped. I mean, the water's on this side. This one here, the water's on that side. So I flipped the compositions. And I was doing that just to see what would happen.
Beautiful.
I wonder what would happen if I flipped them.
And so, Cheryl,
I guess
do
the way
you?
your eye travels is different.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe before we finish our series of these things, you can actually maybe do a demo or give us a little class, because I think it would be fabulous to learn a little bit more from you.
Yeah. Well, we could do like a live painting class thing. That sounds awesome.
Great idea, isn't it?
And anyone that's
Yeah.
interested in Cheryl's work, those paintings would make great complementary paintings in a room,
They would.
having the composition
Yes.
being the way they are.
They
Yeah.
would. And you sell your work, right, Cheryl? You're selling your work now?
Yeah, I sell about one every 6 weeks. I've got a few people who are interested in this one, and I'm thinking of getting it flatbed scanned.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm getting people who are saying things like, I've got to talk to my husband about that, and I'm having all these little pieces sort of happening. But anyway, so that's so that one there in particular, that seems to be a has a bit of a
beautiful.
for people. So I thought I might get that flatbed scanned and see what happens with that.
That's a great idea.
To all those that are viewing this, Cheryl is very active on her social media, Instagram and Facebook, Cheryl Willcox Art. So follow her and you'll see works in progress and beautiful new work that she creates. And also keep following us. We're here 3 o'clock every Thursday. And we've got more to come. We've got one more interview, one more showcase person, and that's Lara. We're looking forward to showcasing her next week. And after that, we're going to be talking more about unveilings of the work that we've been passing around the world and showing that. And this is all a prelude to the bigger project. So there's really more to come there. We are called the International Artist Alliance, right? Art Alliance.
Art Alliance.
Art Alliance, okay. So
Something like that. Yeah.
yeah, International Art Alliance, because we do have a website. We've got a YouTube channel. This will be posted there to watch again. And we have a Facebook page, I believe. We're easily followed. So look us up and look up all of us. I'm Julie Brayton Fine Art. I'm a coastal painter, as you can see, in Rhode Island, USA. So looking forward to seeing y'all back here next week, 3 o'clock. Be on time.
Yeah, man, jump in from the start.